Well, let me now take you through a story that's really upset many of the working class people in India. Of course, this is a rule that's limited to Andhra Pradesh, but could this very well happen pan-India? Andhra Pradesh now asks for 10-hour workday. A major shift in Andhra Pradesh's labour policy has triggered political heat and backlash. Chandrababu Naidu's government has cleared a controversial proposal that private companies and factories in the state can now make employees work up to 10 hours a day. This is up from 9 hours that was designated earlier. The government claims this is meant to boost Andhra's ease of doing business, ranking. In fact, their ranking they wanted to increase on the map. So Andhra says our ease of doing business numbers should go up, and therefore we will allow companies to have people work 1 extra hour. But is that really so simple? Remember Infosys founder Narayan Murthy's explosive comment where he said Indian youth should really be ready to work up to 70 hours a week if the company wants to compete globally. The internet, of course, tore apart that idea, calling it exploitative. Now, with Andhra Pradesh formalizing longer hours, critics are, of course, calling this a push towards modern slavery. Well, here's what the government says. Andhra Pradesh minister who's defended the move says, this is a business-friendly step, and this will only attract industries to the state. That's what he says. Nonetheless, let's bring in a little data here. The daily limit that now rises from 9 to 10 hours in Andhra Pradesh, overtime now kicks in only after 144 hours, up from 75 hours. So that's how much extra work that people will have to put in. Unions fear this could lead to 12-hour days with no checks. Women now can work night shifts, or they will be asked to work night shifts. And this will, of course, push women out of the workforce. Now, overlapping shifts are also allowed, raising burnout and safety concerns as part of this ruling. All of this comes ahead of a nationwide workers' strike that's been scheduled on 9th of July against the centre's labour reforms. So who really gains from Andhra's new work culture? Let me bring in Kiranpreet Kaur, Global HR and Talent Voice, joining us. We also have Nalamotu Chakravarti, who's a political analyst, for a little more. Kiranpreet, as someone who, you're a headhunter, you know very well what an extra hour of work would mean. Is this policy modernizing work culture or pushing workers to the brink?
Well, thank you so much, Nabila, for having me. First of all, I think this is a double-edged sword because while we're trying to boost our industrial productivity, but in sanctity, it's just going to impact worker well-being, and the long-term talent sustainability will become questionable. Just because we're, of course, comparing with Vietnam, China, we're forgetting that there are those industries where they're moving to 4-day culture instead of, um, 5 days, 6 days. And in fact, just to give you an example, a company in China, came up with the burnout issues despite being a global tech supplier just because of the extended work hours. So I think even the WHO report, says that more than 55 hours a week increases a lot of health issues. So while the idea is to boost industrial outputs, I think it should be more towards incentivizing rather than fixing people with rigid shifts, because this could also lead to a lot of women drop out from the industry, which could again make it a gender sensitive issue. My take is that while of course the idea may be noble, but the implementation could be of high risk.
As a political analyst, sir, how would you look at Chandrababu Naidu's policy here? Of course, we saw Narayan Murthy being slammed for asking Indians to work 70 hours a week if they wanted to be competitive. Andhra Pradesh also inching towards the same policy, saying we want to increase our rankings to become the best state when it comes to ease of doing business. But what kind of pressure would that put on the workforce at large, in your view?
I'm a champion of free markets, so I wholeheartedly endorsed what the state government has done. But let's be clear here, the government is not forcing anybody. They have increased the number of hours that workers can be allowed to work to 10 hours. In
Appears to
fact,
then
I would
squeeze the employee force.
no, employees are not being forced to work for 10 hours. Earlier, there is a government imposed cap and how many hours a worker can work. And then these rules are outdated, and these rules have actually what have caused India to fall behind China and many other countries, especially in the manufacturing sector. If you look at any of the number of the developed countries, whether it is United States, Singapore, Hong Kong, I think South Korea now is trying to increase. Many of these countries don't have any limit on the number of hours. The government has a rule in terms of overtime pay, whether it's overtime after 40 hours or 45 hours. Our industry and economy is burdened by these rules and regulations that the government has put in place. And over the last 2, 3 decades, China has sprint ahead. Today, they are almost 5 times our economy. And if you look at the labor force, it is rapidly changing, and our laws are not able to keep up. Look at the gig workers. There are no hours. People are free to work for 2 hours, 5 hours, 8 hours. And IT revolution has happened more than 2 decades ago in India, and there are no work hours there. And people are working, people and employees are putting tremendous
There
pressure
are work
on
hours for
IT
IT employees.
companies.
IT employees do have designated work hours. You can't go beyond that.
No, the government regulated hours are not there. IT is exempt for government. That is one of the part of the 1993 liberalization process where IT companies were encouraged, and some of these lower laws were exempt. IT companies are exempt from these companies, yet they have hours, as you rightfully pointed out. They have hours, which is employee and employer agreed upon hours. And today, if you look at the IT sector, the attrition rate is anywhere from 15 to 25%, depending on which year you're looking at. I think right after COVID, the attrition rate jumped to almost 25%, which means every 1 out of 4 employees have been changing jobs. And why are they changing jobs? For better working condition, better compensation.
Yeah.
But in the process, they put tremendous pressure on these IT companies to improve working conditions. So that is how worker conditions have to be bettered, but not by the laws. The government cannot pass a law and get the wages up, nor can it pass a law and then get their working conditions up. It can only come through productivity gains
Correct.
and competition for labor.
I just hope people enjoy working 9 hours as opposed to 8 hours. I'm not too sure if that will be the outcome, but well, we're not very high on the happiness index either. Thanks very much, both our panelists, for joining us on that.